Hey there, DCPS ELA students. In this video, we are going to talk about a strategy for writing an objective summary of an informational text. Summarizing is an important strategy and skill that can help support your comprehension as a reader. Summarizing can help you to both determine and capture the theme or central idea of a text. Sometimes when we read, there is so much information in a text that we have to decide what is most important and worth remembering. What is most interesting is not always what is most important, and there is sometimes unimportant information in what we are reading. After we determine what is most important, we then have to decide how to put that information into a format that is concise and clear. When someone asks you, "What is that article about?" you don't recite that article word for word or read it aloud. The best response to give is a summary or a brief restatement of the article's most important concepts and details and central ideas in your own words. A summary should be objective or free of any personal opinions or beliefs. Remember, in an objective summary, the writer does the following: explains a central idea, records essential details, typically moves from general to specific description, chooses exact descriptive words, and suspends his or her own beliefs about a text. This video has 3 parts. First, I will describe the strategy. Then we will apply the strategy to a text together as a model. And finally, and most importantly, you will apply the strategy using the assigned complex text in your distance learning plan for the week. The strategy that we will talk about to help you capture important information to include in a summary is the 5 W's and how summary. So when you read an informational text, you'll want to create a graphic organizer that helps you to answer who was involved, what happened, when did it happen, where did the events take place, why did it happen, what caused the event to happen, and how did it happen, consider the way events took place. Depending on the text, you might not need to use all 6 of these questions, so feel free to cross out any of the W's or the how if it doesn't apply to the text you are reading. Because the articles you will read are so different, there's not one set formula or method for writing a summary. Here's one guideline. You might say on and then say when things were taking place, briefly described what happened and where. The next sentence could tell us about who or more of the what. You might connect those ideas by saying this happened because and give the why. Then you might explain how the events took place, and then you might add a couple more sentences as needed, explaining more of the what, why, and the how. What this illustrates is that you don't have to list everything as the 5 W's and how. They will be in different positions throughout the paragraph. But the graphic organizer will help you to get started with setting up what you're writing. So now let's apply the strategy to a text together. We'll read the text Kudzu, From Pretty Vine to Invasive Pest by Aaron Hartman. I'll read the text aloud, and then you'll read the text individually and pause the video to try to identify the 5 W's and write a summary. Like many plants that are in the news, Kudzu originated in Asia. Unlike other invasive species, this plant was purposefully brought here, and, at first, everyone loved it. At the 1876 Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the Japanese government filled its display with plants native to Japan. The attractive kudzu vine, with its large leaves and sweet-smelling blooms, was greatly admired by the Americans. People began planting the vine for decorative purposes. Some years later, kudzu was promoted as forage or food for cattle and goats. And during the 1930s and 1940s, the government fostered the spread of kudzu by planting it to control erosion. Modern-day experts agree that kudzu is good for forage. However, it is easily overgrazed, so farmers need to have an alternative food source so that the animals can be removed from the kudzu field to allow the vines time to regrow. And no one denies that kudzu is effective at controlling erosion. However, Kudzu vines have a tendency to take over. Farmers and homeowners all over the southeastern United States know that only too well. Kudzu can grow about a foot a day, or approximately 60 feet in a growing season. Huge taproots help the plant survive dry periods and make kudzu impossible to pull up. The vigorous vines completely cover abandoned fields and trees. The large leaves block out the sun and smother existing plants. As is the case with all invasives, the absence of natural checks and balances is what has turned kudzu from a pretty plant into a noxious weed. Now that we've read the passage once, take a minute to pause the video and read the passage again to yourself. This time, try to identify the 5 W's and how of the article. Once you've finished, let's take a look at what I came up with. So the who is the kudzu plant, which is native to Japan. The what is the role of the kudzu plant in the US and how it's transformed over time from pretty to being a pest. The article sort of takes us through the timeline from the 1800s to the 1930s and 40s, then to today, telling us how the kudzu plant has changed its role over time. This is specifically the kudzu plant in the US, where it has become invasive. The why is that kudzu was used not just as a decorative plant, but as animal forage and then an erosion controller. But because of its nature, it's was taking over the grounds, right, in that description in the third paragraph. And the how of it is that the kudzu has invasive tendencies as a plant. So now that I've written my 5 W's and how, I might begin to write my summary. Subordinating conjunctions are words that can help me to connect my different ideas around the 5 W's and the how. In my example, I use the subordinating conjunction although. Let's read my 5 W's and how summary for this article. The article, Kudzu, From Pretty Vine to Invasive Pest, explains how the role of the kudzu plant in the United States has transformed over time. Native to Japan, the kudzu vine was first brought to the U.S. as a decorative plant desirable for its beauty in the late 1800s. A few decades later, in the southeastern parts of the country, kudzu was used as food for cattle and goats and also to control erosion. As it turns out, kudzu is only of limited value as an animal forage, and though it is an effective erosion controller, it can take over in an undesirable way. Although once considered a desirable plant, kudzu has invasive tendencies that make it a harmful weed today. Notice how I used my 5 W's and how graphic organizer to help me to build my summary. Now, it's your turn. Take out your assignment for the week and apply the strategy of 5 W's and how to your objective summary writing for the complex text in your distance learning plan for the week. Remember as you're writing your summary for your informational text to include only important information. Who was involved, what happened, when did it happen, where did the events take place, why did it happen, what caused the events to take place, and how did it happen, consider the way events took place. Remember, you can cross out any of the questions that don't make sense for the informational text you are working with. Thanks for watching.